Good day, my fellow football lovers. Good day. Welcome once again to Football is a Religion. I'm your host, Bubisi Mpati Yomhlaba. Right. So, there hasn't been much of club football. Yes, because we're on an international break. So, there's been a couple of international friendlies that we did see, right? Which includes the Portugal game where they took on Sweden. We saw the game between Spain and Colombia, the game between England and Brazil at Wembley. That was one of the much anticipated clashes. We also saw the one between France and Germany, So we saw many more other clashes. We also saw Cote d'Ivoire, the reigning African champions, Cote d'Ivoire taking on Benin. And we saw a couple of other clashes. Argentina taking on El Salvador without Lionel Messi, with Di Maria being their stand-in captain in the absence of the greatest player of all time. And, to say the least, I didn't see much of surprising results, But I'll just start with the game between Portugal and Sweden, because we did see Portugal running riot over Sweden. And, of course, it was Manchester United's Bruno Fernandes as well as Rafael Leao, that did ensure that, Cristiano Ronaldo's absence wouldn't affect the team that much, as they did hammer, a Sweden team that just did not show much in terms of fight. They did not show much in terms of hunger, It was basically a toothless performance from the Swedes, So it was actually a fact that, look, man, I did expect Portugal to win the game, but I really did not expect Sweden just to be as toothless as they were. Sweden cruising past Portugal cruising past Sweden, and basically, I can just say, Cristiano Ronaldo's absence, was not felt at all. Bruno Fernandes, on the other hand, he had a stellar performance. He had a stellar outing. And, as Portugal ran riot, in a 5-2 victory over Sweden. So, remember Roberto Martinez's troops, they had little trouble, basically, in dispatching a toothless Sweden. Remember, the game did take place at the Estadio Dom Afonso Henriquez in Gumarães, despite, resting, several first-team players, which includes Diogo Dalot, João Cancelo, Danilo Pereira, Otavio, Ruben Neves, Vitinha, even João Felix was rested, including Cristiano Ronaldo himself. And I could just say, it didn't really affect Portugal, It was actually a lively start to the match, with Sweden actually seeing more of the ball in the first 10 minutes, but that soon faded away, because Portugal grew more into the game. They were soon rewarded for their persistence, and it was actually Rafael Leao that broke the deadlock in the 24th minute. And after the woodwork denied Bernardo Silva, the rebound fell kindly to the AC Milan man, who packed his effort with power and precision. And less than 10 minutes later, we saw Matheus Nunes, he doubled the lead, as Sweden's defense, was again, sliced upon, by exceptional individual brilliance by the Manchester City midfielder, after he was dancing past 3 defenders. And then guess what Nunes did? Nunes pulled the trigger, and his shot had enough power to actually beat, Robin Olsen between the sticks. And the 2016 European champions were just running riot. We just saw just before halftime, Fernandes then made it 3 after Nelson Mandela drilled in a low cross across the face of the goal. And, that's when you could tell that, game was match, set, and done. And then second half, we saw Roberto Martinez, he took off Rafael Leao, Pepe, as well as Nuno Mendes at halftime, but Portugal still continued, with their dominance. Their dominance was still maintained. They weaved their first meaningful attack after the break, in the 57th minute of the game. And, it resulted in them getting their 4th. It was actually Bruma, who got on the score sheet after being set up by, Fernandes. And he was the first player to wear that number 7 jersey at Portugal after so many years, man, to say the least. After so many years, in the absence of Cristiano Ronaldo. And on the other side, we even saw Victor, Gyökeres, he did pull one back, but Gonzalo Ramos soon restored the 4-goal advantage, after he scored his 8th international goal in just 11 appearances. And it was actually Gustav Nilsson that reduced the deficit in the 90th minute. But, it was too little too late, for the Swedes. And I could just say, man, Portugal did run riot, because now Roberto Martinez, he has won his first 11 matches as Portugal's manager. And now he boasts a 100% win record since he took over the hot seat at the Portuguese national team. And I must say, Bruno Fernandes, for me, he was the standout player, for Portugal. And, in Ronaldo's absence, he looked like the leader on the pitch. He was the primary orchestrator, in the midfield. He created several chances and he deservedly got the goal, to cap off a fantastic evening for the Portuguese. Whereas, you look at the fact of the Sweden coach, John Dahl, Thomason, that was basically his first game on the Sweden bench. And look, the manager would have hoped that, his players could have showed more grit against, a second string Portugal side. But, the manner in which the Swedish defense was dismantled time in and time again, but Fernandes as well as Leao, I could say for the Sweden manager that he should be worried. He should be extremely worried. And after an emphatic victory, for Portugal now, Portugal will march on and they will be back in action to face off Slovenia on the 26th of March. And the match might see the return of some of the big guns, which includes Ronaldo, maybe João Felix, Otavio and João Cancelo. And perhaps, it will actually make Portugal more formidable. Whereas, meanwhile, the big losers of the night, Sweden will host Albania on the same day, in their second friendly of the window. And remember now, this is the last international break before the end of the season. So, yeah, man, this gives so many players an opportunity to actually put on an impression to their coaches, to their managers, and to actually do what they're supposed to do for their national teams, because there are so many, big tournaments that we are looking forward to. The Euro, which takes place in Germany, the Copa America, which also takes place in the United States of America. So those are some of the tournaments, the big international tournaments that we are looking forward to. Right. So we head straight to Wembley. London, the capital of England, the United Kingdom. Remember, Wembley will also be hosting the Champions League final this year, right? They'll also be hosting the FA Cup final pretty soon. And we also looking forward to two semi-final clashes of the FA Cup, where Manchester City take on Chelsea and Coventry City take on Manchester United. But what we're going to focus on right now, we're going to focus on the game between England and Brazil. Yeah. We were all looking forward to this game, no lie. Some Real Madrid teammates clashing against each other, right? Talking about Jude Bellingham clashing against his Real Madrid teammates, Vinicius Jr., his future Real Madrid teammate, Enrique, as well as Rodrigo. And let's just say the least, man. It was a great game of football, to say the least, as expected. And yes, Brazil won by a goal to nil, deservedly so, which was scored by, Brazil's teenage sensation, Endrick. He struck late on to actually condemn England to defeat in a scrappy friendly, at Wembley Stadium. And I must say that, the game actually looked, to be petering out in a draw before Vinicius Jr. broke clear. And, it was the 17-year-old substitution that left a simple finish from close range. Despite the fact that, the England goalkeeper, Jordan Pickford, he made a save with 10 minutes to go. You could tell that this game really, it was a great game of football, but there was not much of goal-scoring opportunities, to say the least. But yes, they were great, chances, right? And let's just say the fact that, it kept an unsatisfactory night for England, because their defense, Harry Maguire in particular, he looked very vulnerable. As they lost their captain Kyle Walker due to a hamstring injury earlier on. And now the England manager Gareth Southgate, he gave a debut to Newcastle United's winger Anthony Gordon from the start. While we also saw the Aston Villa defender Ezri Konsa and Manchester United's teenage midfield prodigy, Kobe Mainu, they also got their first caps as substitutes. I'm very disappointed with the fact that Menu chose England. I was expecting him to go with Ghana, but I understand why. He has never set foot on Ghana. But it would have been so honoring to actually have him, play for the Black Stars of Ghana, representing the Black Stars of Ghana. He would have created a formidable midfield, duo or midfield combination at the Black Stars alongside, West Ham sensation, Mohamed Kudus. But yes, he chose the Three Lions instead. And we cannot blame him, you know. But I guess, the quality, getting back to the game, man, the quality of the game was reflected in the experimental nature of both sides. While Brazil having the better of the first half chances, we saw Ollie Watkins, he blazed over from close range, and basically that was England's best opportunity. Whereas even Rafinha wasted Brazil's biggest chance, as he went off target following Maguire's poor back pass, you know. And even the England star man, Jude Bellingham, was subjected to heavy physical treatment throughout, until he was substituted. And before Endrick sent the large contingent of Brazil fans into wild celebrations with the winning goal. And it was actually England's first defeat at Wembley, in 21 games, since they were last, defeated by Denmark in the UEFA Nations League in October 2020, right? Basically, this defeat to Brazil has actually proven the fact that now, England's worst nightmare when it comes to international football is actually Brazil. And it was actually a tough night for England because, the build-up to this friendly, a meeting with Brazil always carrying an added prestige. It was actually overshadowed by debate surrounding the redesigned flag of, St. George on England's new kit, which was worn for the first time at Wembley. Of course, more concerning, to England as well as the manager, Gareth Southgate, was a performance that flagged, some of the flaws which may still jeopardize their chances at Euro 2024 in the summer. And there's no excuse for England not to actually win in Germany. There's really no excuse. And it should actually be placed into context, that England were without some key figures such as, Captain Harry Kane. Arsenal's Bukayo Saka, was also missing through injury. But it was an impressive defense where England, they looked unimpressive at all. Their defense was so unimpressive, very vulnerable. Whereas on the left-hand side, we saw Ben Chilwell. He just did not distinguish himself as a left back. And Maguire, was under par, in central defense, looking very nervous. He almost gifted Rafinha a first half goal, with the sort of error in this case, a poor back pass that could carry a heavy penalty in Germany, in the Euro 2024 finals, Well, I can say the Newcastle United winger, Anthony Gordon, he had some bright moments, on his debut, but the Aston Villa star, Ollie Watkins, hoping to press his claims as the first choice, understudy to Kane, he will be disappointed that he blazed over with a chance from close range. He should have actually done better. He should have at least hit the target. Whereas I will say that Menu, he looked very confident in, his cameo, but it was a rough night for him, literally for Bellingham, as his talent made him look like a clear target for Brazil players, and he was fouled consistently. Whereas now, Southgate, I guess, Southgate, his team selection, is also going to be very critical, very crucial if England are to stand any chance of winning Euro 2024 in Germany. And now Southgate will actually have to start now with his plans for the next friendly against Belgium at Wembley as well on Tuesday evening, where England will actually hope for a better performance, right? But yeah, I can say, Endrick, he is part of the record books because now he's regarded as the new sensation of Brazilian football. And, he rewrote the Wembley history with his winning goal, becoming the youngest male goal scorer for a club or country at the stadium at just 17 years and 24. Right. So Endrick became the youngest male goal scorer for club or country at the stadium at just 17 years old and 246 days. He almost added a second with the final kick of the game, only to be denied by Pickford. But his exciting cameo, as a second half substitute confirmed his status as a future superstar. Chelsea also had hoped to bring him, Endrick to Stamford Bridge, from his current club, Palmeiras, but they lost out to Real Madrid, where he's heading, and he will also join Jude Bellingham at the end of the season once, he has turned 18. And that's a golden opportunity, surely awaits, this Brazilian sensation. And, Brazil may not, be glittering, may not be the glittering collection of superstars of the old, but in Endrick, they look to have added to their list of superstars that they already have currently, right? So let's just say, man, this particular encounter between France and Germany, right? So we're talking about the 2018 champions, 2018 World Cup champions, taking on the 2014 World Cup champions. Basically, Germany and France have a combined. Germany has got 4 World Cup trophies. France has got 3. Yeah, France has got 3 World Cup trophies. Germany has got 4. Yeah. So they've got 7 World Cup trophies between them. I'm talking about France and Germany. And the last time these two sides met, they've met a couple of times in the UEFA Nations League. And remember, they met in the 2014 World Cup, quarterfinals, in Brazil, where Germany emerged through due to victory by a goal to nil. And they also met in the 2016 Euro semi-finals, where France emerged victorious by 2 goals to nil. And in this game, it was actually the other way around. It was Germany that emerged by 2 goals to nil in this particular encounter. So let's just say, man, we also saw history being made in this particular encounter. Wirtz, his goal now against France, is actually the fastest ever goal to be scored by a German player. Florian Wirtz, scored after just 7 seconds as Germany ended a 3-game winless run with a very comfortable friendly victory, I must say, over France in Lyon. And Toni Kroos, man. What a player, man. Toni Kroos is just world class. I must say, Toni Kroos is just world class. It was actually the fact that the 20-year-old collected Toni Kroos's pass from the kickoff, and he actually found, the top left corner with a deflected effort. And the Bayer Leverkusen midfielder, his goal now is actually the fastest ever goal scored by a German player. Kai Havertz turned in Musiala's cutback to confirm victory for, Julian Nagelsmann's, side. And, France's best opportunity came midway, through the first half, but Kylian Mbappe skewed his shot very wide. And, Didier Deschamps' side really looked capable of actually scoring in the second period. Up until late on, when Germany defender Antonio Rudiger, he turned the ball against his own crossbar as he was actually attempting to clear the ball. However, I must say it was actually a good evening for the visitors, with Toni Kroos at the age of 34 making an immediate impact on his return, just 3 years after announcing his international retirement. And he supplied a pinpoint pass to Wirtz, to actually set them well on their way. And it was actually the youngster's first goal for his country. And it would have actually been the fastest international goal on record had Austria's Christoph Baumgartner not opened the scoring after 6 seconds in his country's friendly game against Slovakia early on Saturday. So the previous quickest, for an international, side was Lucas Podolski, whose strike against Ecuador in 2013, which was over just the 7-second mark. So, records just continue to be broken. Records get broken time in and time out again. As we continue, in another international friendly, we saw Slovakia taking on Austria. And Austria, the away side, emerged with a victory by 2 goals to nil. And history was actually made in this game. Christoph Baumgartner, actually scored after 6 seconds to record the fastest ever goal in international football as Austria beat Slovakia, in Bratislava. So the 24-year-old midfielder actually skipped past 3 challenges from kickoff and fired a low shot past home goalkeeper Martin Dubravka of Newcastle United. So his effort was second quicker than Lucas Podolski's strike for Germany against Ecuador in 2013. Andreas Wiemann's late goal confirmed victory for, Ralf Rangnick's side, and Baumgartner's remarkable effort was almost equal later on Saturday evening when, Florian Wirtz, put Germany ahead in France, with the 25-yard effort that appeared to actually deflect off, Dayot Upamecano before actually clipping the other side of the crossbar on its way in. So meanwhile, Austria, who host Turkey in Vienna on Tuesday evening, have now won 4 consecutive matches as they build for, the Euros in Germany. And they could hardly, have had a better start in the Slovakian capital, with the home fans looking on in complete disbelief as the RB Leipzig man, Baumgartner, he willed away to celebrate with his teammates. So his goal was also 2 seconds faster than when, David, Gualtieri, stunned England by scoring for San Marino after 8 seconds in a World Cup qualifier in 1993. And Christian Benteke's goal for Belgium against Gibraltar, in 2017. So basically the earliest goal ever recorded in the Premier League was by Shane Long for Southampton. Basically it was only 7.69 seconds into their meeting against Watford in 2019. Incredible. And then Roy McKay, he holds that particular distinction in, Champions League, finding a net for Bayern Munich, just like 10.12 seconds into the second leg for their last 16 tie against Real Madrid in March. And then meanwhile, in February, Croydon FC's Ryan Hall, scored a stunning goal straight from kickoff in their game against, Cock Frosters, in their London Senior Trophy that was like timed at, 2.31 seconds by the non-league side. However, the Guinness World Records, could not confirm that it was an official record for the fastest goal scored from kickoff, as they do not monitor goals, outside of professional football, to say the least. But records just continue being broken. I mean, it's ridiculous records, to say the least, If you ask me, it's such a ridiculous record. But what can we say, man? I mean, how does that happen? How does that actually happen, ladies and gentlemen? How does that actually happen? And to say the least, I'm actually so astonished, man, by that goal. I'm so astonished. And Toni Kroos also, man, what a player he is. What a brilliant assist that was. Straight from the kickoff. That's just insane, man. It really is insane. Okay, so the next game that we head on to is the game between the Republic of Ireland as well as Belgium. So let me just be honest, man. It was actually an interesting game of football to watch. Just disappointed by the fact that we didn't really see much goals, right? But there was a lot of action. We saw even Ferguson missing an early penalty for the Republic of Ireland. They were held to a 0-0 draw. They played out to a 0-0 draw with Belgium, in a friendly game at the Aviva Stadium. And as for Ferguson, right? Even Ferguson has not scored a goal for club or country in the last 4 months. So that penalty miss really hasn't really done him much favors. And it has actually dented, his poor run of form of late. You understand? And this was actually John O'Shea's first game as an interim manager, because Ferguson saw his spot kick saved by, Belgium goalkeeper Matt Sells, in the absence, who's standing in the absence of Thibaut Courtois of Real Madrid, as he did pick up another injury, which means that he will miss out in the Euro that will take place in Germany. And to say the least, I mean, that spot kick was very tame. Very tame. I mean, that was an easy save for the goalkeeper. Very tame spot kick, to say the least. And at the other end, we did see Kelleher. He denied Thomas Munier from close range. And, Ireland now have to turn their attention to the friendly game against Switzerland on Tuesday. Because this game was actually built, as the start of a new era for the Republic of Ireland under, the new coach O'Shea, after a disappointing Euro 2024 qualifying campaign. And the former Republic of Ireland defender, who actually won 118 caps for his country, he rang the changes from the last game where they played to a 1-1 draw with New Zealand in November, which was actually Stephen Kenny's last game in charge. And Kelleher, as well as Andrew Omar Bamidele, were the only 2 players that actually returned their place, for the game against, the Domenico Tedesco's side, who were actually preparing for the summer's Euros. And I must say, the Blackburn forward, Sam Smodics, who has now scored like basically 21 goals in the championship this term, he was actually rewarded, for his good run of form at club level by O'Shea with an international debut. In an exciting, front three with Ferguson as well as, Chidozie Ogbene, right? But let's just say the least, Ireland, the Republic of Ireland actually made a bright start to the game. as a blistery Aviva Stadium, and they actually fashioned the first opportunity just in the space of 3 minutes, And it was actually the lively Ogbena that fired into the side netting after being slipped through by Smodix, when he had the option to actually square it to Seamus Coleman, who was actually steaming into the box. But you can't blame the striker. I mean, he was just following his instinct. And a much changed Belgium, missing Romelu Lukaku and Kevin De Bruyne, offered very little going forward in the first period. They created their only chance of note on 10 minutes. It was actually the captain, Yuri Tillemans, who glanced his header wide after Leandro Trossard, weaved his way into the area and then stood the ball high up for the Aston Villa midfielder. But he just couldn't, keep his header on target, right? And then the Republic of Ireland continued to dominate possession, and they were awarded a penalty, in the 26th minute of the game. It was actually Dara O'Shea's close range, swiveling shot that actually struck the hand of Arthur, Vermeeren, right? And it actually seemed to be a harsh decision, very harsh, man, because given how close Vermeeren was, right, there was no VAR in the game as well, and the penalty decision actually stood, right? And it was actually Ferguson who stepped up in an attempt to actually end his 4-month goal drought for club and country, but his poor effort was pushed away by the goalkeeper. Very poor effort. Very poor. But that was the closest that the Republic of Ireland would come to breaking the deadlock in what proved to be... The game actually proved to be a low-key first half, with Ogbene dragging a low shot wide before Smodix lashed over, the crossbar with an acute angle, on the stroke of halftime. And let's be honest, Belgium were not in the game at all, very disappointingly. But it's no longer the golden generation of Hazard, De Bruyne, Nasir Chadli, Dembele. I'm talking about Moussa Dembele, Vertonghen, Courtois. As your substitute goalkeeper, you have Simon Munyele. But De Bruyne is still there. Lukaku is still there. But some of those other golden generation players are no longer there. Marion Fellaini is also no longer there. But there's still a new generation. Doku is there. Onana of Everton is there. They still have De Bruyne. They still have Lukaku. They have Bakayoko, the PSV winger. They still have players. They still do have players, quality players, that are still playing at a high level. So we'll wait to see more from them. But let's just say the least, second half, the Republic of Ireland started the second half with similar intent, and for first and foremost, they almost scored, straight from the kickoff. And Ferguson headed the crossbar. His header was just over the crossbar, after meeting Robbie Bradley's wicked delivery. But, Belgium, from that particular moment in time, they began to gain a foothold in the game after the introduction of Jeremy Doku, as well as Mounier, and Kelleher was also called into action for the first time on 49 minutes. And let's just say, Vote Fires, lofted the ball through to John Bakayoko of PSV, and who headed it down for Lois Openda, and he actually stung, the hands of the Liverpool shot stopper with his volley. I forgot to actually mention his name, Openda, who's in fine goal-scoring form for RB Leipzig in the German Bundesliga. Yes. But let's just say the least, man, clear-cut goal-scoring opportunities remained at a premium, at the game, which wore with a swirling free kick from Bradley, landing the roof of the net before Smodix's shot was actually blocked by Amadou Onana. And Belgium's best chance, arrived on 75 minutes, as it was actually the substitute Mounier and Bakayoko that actually linked up very well before, he was actually denied by Kelleher, who got down very well to shovel the ball, behind, for a corner. And you could tell that ball was destined for the far corner, right? But, a host of substitutions also saw the game fizzle out. But O'Shea did his chances of getting the Republic job no harm, with that solid, if I could say it was an unspectacular display from his team. But he will further, audition for a permanent role when they actually welcome Switzerland to the Aviva on Tuesday, right? So I must say it wasn't really much of an interesting game of football, but there were chances, although those chances were far and few between. But yeah, it wasn't really much of an interesting game, to say the least. Not much, eh? Yeah, and back to my country, South Africa. I can't just do this without like mentioning my country, South Africa, right? So remember, there was a FIFA game series that was taking place in Algeria, which included Andorra, a lowly ranked, European nation, Algeria, and South Africa, my country. And let me just say, man, we saw a couple of changes to the Bafana squad. We did see now from the squad that did play, in the 2023 AFCON, tournament. We saw Kanyisa Mayo coming in. We also saw Ikram Reyners of Stellenbosch deservedly being given a call-up. We also saw the SuperSport United goalkeeper, Ricardo Goss. And we also did see Bruce Bavuma of Kaizer Chiefs also coming into the national team setup. Who else did we see? A new fresh face. Elias Mukwana as well, And we also saw Tapelo Koke also being called up. Remember he was also left out for that 2023 AFCON squad. And let's just say, let's get straight into the game that took place between Bafana and Andorra, right? It resulted in a 1-1 draw, disappointingly to say the least. And let's just say it like this, we saw Hugo Boss, Hugo Bruce, he made a couple of changes, despite the fact that they had a rough start, to their first match of the inaugural FIFA series. And, Ricardo Gross, and his unfortunate goalkeeping mistake actually allowed, Ricard Fernandez, to actually break the deadlock just 5 minutes into the game for Andorra. We also saw the fact that Mshishi, Deboho Mokoena, Evidence Mahopa, they were actually given a rest. They were rested from this particular encounter, as well as Ronan Williams. But let's just say, man, despite the setback, Bafana, they showed some great recovery. With their best opportunity, just like coming after 18 minutes, we saw Tapelo Morena. He had a great shot. That was an impressive shot, from range, which was actually totted by, the goalkeeper Joseph, Gomez, as well as the fact that, Bafana did very well to actually apply relentless pressure. And eventually it did pay off, right? Because we saw the debutant Elias Mokwana of Sekhukhune United, the striker that is even wanted by Kaizer Chiefs. He managed to score a remarkable equalizer in the 25th minute, and it actually injected, a renewed energy into the visiting team. Whereas, I could actually say the least that South Africa from that particular moment in time, they had several opportunities to actually add more goals. But they entered halftime just deadlocked at 1-1, right? And we saw even in the second 45 minutes of the game, Bafana, they could have taken the lead early in the second half, but their opportunities were squandered as Andorra's defense, held very strong and firm, preventing the South Africans from actually scoring, And with the match actually ending 1-1, after 94 minutes of play, to say the least, hopefully we'll see a much decent showing, in preparation, for their upcoming match against Algeria, on Tuesday. Hopefully we'll see a much better performance and we'll see actually more goals. Hopefully we'll see that they will be able to convert some of those chances that they do often tend to squander. That they didn't even squander in this game against Andorra. They could have won this game by 4-1, to say the least. And yeah, my man of the match actually has to go to Elias Mokwana, of Sekhukhune United. He showcased an impressive performance in Bafana's lineup. He was very offensive, to say the least, and he did that so well that to the extent where he was able to demonstrate his value to the coach Bruce. As he will look to actually get more game time. I'm actually hoping to see him get more game time in national team colors, and I hope to see maybe if Kaizer Chiefs are serious, maybe Kaizer Chiefs can even add him to their books. Because Kaizer Chiefs really do need a center forward, and they should be looking at Elias Mokwana because he is a man who really knows how to find the back of the net. Whereas I think Ricardo Goss, he has now actually endured, a tough start to, his Bafana career. He lost control of the ball early on, which resulted in Andorra scoring the opening goal. And I'm sure he will be disappointed with that error, but let's just say the least, man. Mistakes happen. Maybe it was just he was overwhelmed. Maybe he was nervous. Maybe he was just anxious. But mistakes do happen, and we hope that the SuperSport United goalkeeper, he will make amends very soon when he's given a chance at Bafana level. And what can I just say, man? Hopefully, remember he has been, on sublime form for SuperSport United. making crucial saves. Remember even the game that they played against Richards Bay in the Nedbank Cup, he saved from the penalty spot. So it did actually say that, look, man, he's a great goalkeeper. Yes, mistakes happen. Hopefully he will learn from it and he'll actually be able to bounce back. And let's just pray it doesn't affect his confidence. Look, after that, draw with the lowly ranked, European country, Andorra, I must actually give Bafana praise, because, wow, man, what a great game of football that was. I mean, I must say, Bafana are really improving. They're improving because, hey, that encounter between Algeria and Bafana was so magical. It was so sensational. I mean, 6 goals being scored. When last did we watch a Bafana game where there were so many goals being scored, so many chances being created, where you could see it was cracking, where you could tell that, look, man, both teams want to win the game? When last did we see this? Especially when it came to Bafana. Don't. I know everybody will want to give credit to Sundowns, but look, it's not only about Sundowns. I mean, I must just say, man, the whole team really played well, even players that are not from Sundowns. Because you look at the fact that Bafana, obviously they made changes. They brought back some of their, key players that often start the games, And let's just say, after Bafana stalemate against the lowly ranked, Andorra, on Friday evening, Coach Hugo Bruce, was roundly criticized. I don't understand why, even though like the national team was really not really prepared for the game. And you could tell that he was actually giving some players a chance, some French players, handing debuts to some players. And, you couldn't blame him, right? Because remember, it takes time to actually gel, okay? But yes, we were actually fancied to actually beat that lowly ranked side, Andorra. But, however, if you look at Tuesday night's clash, against the 2-time African Cup of Nations winners, Algeria, there was a wide scale of praise for Bruce once again and his players. I can actually give them the praise, but you can't necessarily, blame Bruce, for that game against Andorra. Yes, it was a disappointing result at the end of the day, I must say. But unfortunately, what was disappointing was the fact that they didn't capitalize on the chances that they created. Because Bafana created a lot of chances, which should have seen them winning that game easily. They were supposed to have won that game. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's the fault of the coach. I would just say, it's poor finishing and lack of composure in front of goal, And you look at the fact that the air of skepticism, after that Andorra clash, has actually made a way for, a frisson of optimism in the ranks of, some of the supporters, in Mzansi. And it is very likely that, when Bafana have a home game, there'll actually be more spectators than the proverbial one man and his dog. Despite the advantage of home ground support in the packed ground in Algiers, the capital city of Algeria. They incidentally named it Nelson Mandela Stadium. So Algeria were actually forced to settle for a 3-3 thriller, right? And look, unlike the South African squad, which is made up mostly of locally based players, most of Algeria's squad ply their trade in England, Spain, Portugal, France, Italy, Belgium, and all, other top flight leagues, in Europe. Remember Yassine Brahimi, formerly of Porto and Granada. Mahrez was not there. We also saw Nabil Bentaleb starting on the bench. We also saw a lot of players. Apparently, there was a time I think I saw Nabil Fekir in the stands, if I'm not mistaken. But he chose to represent France, right? But look, the statistics of this particular encounter, it demonstrates that South Africa, they actually bossed possession, because South Africa actually had more of the ball than Algeria, their opponents, to say the least. And something that Bafana, have never previously enjoyed against Algeria's Desert Foxes. And to say the least, man, I was just surprised at how Bafana actually rose to the occasion. And I would say that, Bafana can actually defeat any opponent in Africa. With this kind of confidence that they have, with this kind of performance, I can say that Bafana stand a chance against any opponent in Africa. They do. Of course, South Africa have already proved that much, after they did even defeat, the top the highly fancied Morocco. And you might say the fact that, okay, fine, Morocco, we were just lucky to have beaten Morocco because Morocco missed the penalty. But look, man, I don't think sometimes, in football, we do need luck. But you must also understand, Morocco came into this one booming with confidence, into that tournament booming with confidence. The fact that even when they went to Cote d'Ivoire, they were busy renovating hotels, they were busy renovating soccer fields and stuff like that, hoping that they're gonna win it. They thought they were really gonna win it. I just think that Morocco just got ahead of themselves. I mean, I find it so disrespectful that you go into another country, you're just going there, you're renovating hotels and stuff like that, renovating facilities, thinking that you're going to win the tournament. I mean, that was very disrespectful and very uncalled for and unprecedented from Morocco. And they deserve to lose, man, because they were just too ahead of themselves. But I won't also lie, I did fancy Morocco. I really did fancy Morocco. I mean, looking at the squad of players, the caliber of players that they had, Hakim Ziyech, Unai, Akraf Hakimi, Nuruddin Amrabat, Yusuf El Nasiri as a striker, the caliber of players that Morocco has, even for the fact that Brahim Diaz has now pledged, allegiance to Morocco. It tells you one thing. And let's just say, man, Bafana now, coming back to Bafana will now travel to Nigeria for a match like on the 3rd of June. And a week later, they will also host Zimbabwe in Joburg, right? And another confidence booster would be the news that both Nigeria and Zimbabwe suffered defeats on Tuesday. So the players, will actually rejoin their clubs, right? And Bruce will actually start his preparations for the 2 games that will take place in June, in mid-year. So the first order of the business, I would say, is like to actually be able to tie down the Burnley striker Lyle Foster for future games. While Foster, would have noted the progress made by Bafana, and by this time he will actually start thinking about playing at the 2026 World Cup. Hence, let's just say, Bruce, should not have problems, convincing the Burnley striker to return to international duty. And the French-based striker Lebo Motiba also looks like the ideal partner for Foster in what will actually be a strong combination up front. Remember, he was injured for the African Cup of Nations, but he has maintained a regular contact, with the players, and it suggests that he is keen to play for Bafana. Although it remains a mystery that he will actually be seen whether he will be fit, by June, to actually don the, national team colors. And let's just say the least. I mean, there are also players that are actually really performing currently. Even so, the fact that Dupree scored a brace in the derby, I'm sure Bruce will actually change his mind. He'll be scratching his head and saying, I think I should add Shesha Geza. Shesha Geza. Now, that's what the Kaizer Chiefs fans call Ashley Dupree. I think they should actually add him. And Bruce, now I can tell you for a fact, he will actually have, few selection headaches, especially after, several players used their chances well during the 2 friendlies in Algeria. The star of the show was obviously Mshishi Tembazwani, the 34-year-old midfielder. I mean, he scored a brace against Algeria once again, demonstrating his individual brilliance. And at the stage, Zwani selects himself. He produced another masterful performance, and he has actually been the fulcrum around the team, because basically he's been the fulcrum around which the team basically revolves around him, right? It really revolves around him, to say the least. And what can we say, man? What can we say? The fact that now the find of Algerian Toyo was actually Elias Mukwana, to say the least. So what I can just say is like, the best find of the Algerian tour was actually Elias Mukwana. He was actually one of the, French players for Bafana who did enough to actually cement, his place in the future national, squad. And another thing, he scored in his first match against Andorra, and he contributed to the 3rd goal for Bafana against Algeria, whereby we even saw his shot, deflected off Ikram Reyners to actually beat the goalkeeper. And I must say he was very impressive. Where he was actually more impressive was also in his runs at opposition defenders. He was very impressive. And I must say the Stellenbosch FC star Reyners, caught the eye as well with his busy display at the main striker against Algeria. And I mean, I was even surprised that he was not called up to the AFCON squad. But I guess, luckily it didn't affect us that much. And we also saw with Mihlali Mayambela, he actually served some great notice, that has to be part of the future selections. He brings a bit of that X factor, and he has actually shown, some fine understanding with the players around him. Although he actually needs to guard, against these lapses in concentration, but all in all, it was actually a fine advertisement for South African football after, a surprisingly good bronze medal finish at the recent AFCON tournament in Cote d'Ivoire. So we hope the boys can actually keep it up. Let's hope that the boys will keep it up and keep up with the great performance, right? Yeah, then coming back to local football. Hey, sometimes I'm just glad that I don't support that team anymore. I'm talking about Kaizer Chiefs. I'm just going to be neutral when it comes to South African football. Remember now, Kaizer Chiefs, they take on Cape Town City, in Cape Town on the 31st, Sunday, the 31st of March. And let me just say, Cape Town City have, a superb recent record against Kaizer Chiefs. And look, when you talk about Kaizer Chiefs, right, I want us to actually get straight into the talk ahead of this highly anticipated clash, at the Cape Town Stadium. Obviously, my predicted Kaizer Chiefs lineup against Cape Town City, right, away from home. I see Buvuma in goal. Obviously, right back, Reef Rosler. Left back, I'll hopefully see, Hlanti, of course. And then maybe in the central defensive pairing will be in Jabulo Ngobo alongside Given Msimango. And I'm hoping to actually see Samkelo Zwane in the midfield, partnering up with Mdantsane as well as Nkosi Pilile Ngobo. Obviously, the front three will be Saile Modi as well as Dupree. And remember now, the midfield duo, Yusuf Mart, as well as the Venezuelan star player, Edson Castillo, are suspended for Amakosi's weekend clash with Cape Town City. And remember the pair, they picked up 4 bookings this term. So let's hope that, we'll see the 22-year-old holding schemer, Samkelo Zwane. Let's hope that he'll be likely to start in the engine room. And let's hope that now finally Kevin Johnson will get to see that this boy is a star and he deserves to be given a chance to play. He's a star. Okay? Stop destroying your players, man. Stop destroying the youth of the club. Stop destroying the future of the club. And we know that central defender, Titi Ditlokwe, is actually nearing his return. But, this match comes too far soon, for the 25-year-old Botswana, defender. Whereas I can say, Samkelo Zwane is better than Martin Castillo. I mean, I don't understand why Samkelo Zwane is not given a chance to play. He's way better than Martin Castillo, to be honest. Because I'm sure he has to be given a start. And it is a huge opportunity for him to actually stake a claim for a regular place. Remember, Zwane has been limited to just 6 league appearances all season. And this game will actually be taking place at the Athlone Stadium. It's the stage where the sides will be meeting on the 30th of March, at 3:30 kickoff. And the Chiefs midfield duo, Yusuf Martin and Edson Castillo, will miss the match because of accumulation of bookings. Meanwhile, Amakosi target Kanyisa Mayo is in the Golden Boot race once again with 9 strikes to his name in the league. And City, are a bogey team for Kaizer Chiefs, I must say. Because, look, Kaizer Chiefs is no longer the Kaizer Chiefs that we know. What's only left is the name. And let's just be honest, the City manager, Eric Tinkler, he sounds so bullish. And no wonder, considering his team's recent form against Amakosi, 7th place Chiefs, now they will be traveling to Cape Town City on Saturday. And with both sides, in need of points to actually stay in touch for, a top 2 finish, to say the least. Chiefs have just won 1 of their last 8 league games. And City boss Tinkler has reminded the media of, the physicalness of football. Chiefs are in poor form themselves, coming off like a back of a Soweto derby defeat to Orlando Pirates. Amakosi have only won 1 of their last 6 games. And it's a genuine clash between the two teams, to bang out of form. Well, Tinkler's team will be actually optimistic though, of actually winning the game, because you look at the head-to-head record between these two sides, right? In terms of head-to-head record, City have actually won 5 of their last 6 league encounters against Chiefs, including each of their last 4. City's triumph over Chiefs in the final day of the 2022-2023 season condemned Chiefs to a fifth place finish in the league and helped the citizens secure fourth in the DStv Premiership at their expense. Whereas Amakosi's last victory over City in the league was in January 2021. So that tells you one thing. That tells you one thing for sure. And yeah, guys, we saw cracking international friendlies, cracking games. You know, the Spain versus Brazil game at the Santiago Bernabeu was actually one of the games that I had on my radar. It was a thrilling game, scintillating, pulsating, you know, incredible, to say the least, end-to-end stuff, you know. And the score resulted in a 3-3 draw, right? But it was incredible. You know, 6 goals being scored. 6-goal thriller between Spain and Brazil, the powerhouses. We're talking about the 5-time world champions against the 2010 champions, the 2010 world champions. So, yes, it was actually Lucas Paqueta, you know, who scored a penalty deep in added time to actually rescue, you know, Brazil from a fortunate 3-3 draw, you know, with Spain in an ill-tempered friendly at the Santiago Bernabeu. What I can just say is that, you know, the hosts, you know, they dominated proceedings early on. They actually opened a 2-goal lead with a penalty from Rodri, and then Dani Olmo, you know, that just took some brilliant, you know, dribbling. That was like basically some individual brilliance. And remember, Dani Olmo is a player that actually targeted by FC Barcelona. He is FC Barcelona material. I mean, he has been in pulsating form for Red Bull Leipzig, you know, in the German Bundesliga. However, Rodrigo was the one who actually reduced the deficit for Brazil before the break after the mistake by, you know, the Spain goalkeeper Unai Simon, you know. And I guess mistakes happen all the time, so you cannot actually fault him, but he should have done better in that instance. He should have actually been more aware. You know, he should have actually been, you know, concentrating on like his surroundings and being understanding of the fact that, look, you don't want to risk a 2-goal lead, right? You're already in control of the game. You can't afford to make those kind of mistakes, because one mistake can let your opposition come into the game. And that's exactly what happened. And the Brazil teenager Endrick came off the bench again to actually equalize from a corner 4 minutes into the second half. You know, and now that's basically 2-2 for Endrick, the 17-year-old teenage sensation. And now he has actually scored. I mean, imagine what a way to actually get your first international goals. What a way. I mean, against England and Spain. Those are powerhouses. Those are powerhouses of football. Imagine getting your first international goals against England and Spain. Away from home even. Yeah, this kid is a sensation, I must say. And then we actually saw that Rodri did put Spain back in the lead, you know, from the spot again in the 86th minute. You wonder where would Spain be without Rodri. Not to say the least that I wouldn't compare him to Sergio Busquets, but, you know, where would Spain be without him? Because he is the engine of that midfield. He literally is the engine. And remember, a car can't move without an engine. But Brazil managed to actually level again. You know, just 5 minutes into added time, there was actually Galino, the Porto striker, who was actually fouled inside the box. And then Paqueta stroked home from the spot. And it was actually a careless mistake made by the Real Madrid right back, you know, Dani Carvajal. There was no need for him to actually commit that foul. There was absolutely no need. He should have just like been, you know, in control of that situation, you know, not lose his footing, not lose his calm, not lose his composure. But now he conceded an unnecessary penalty, you know, which cost Spain, you know, an important victory against Brazil. And let's just say, you know, what I can just say is that it was very shameful to hear some of the fans actually during the, you know, name of the Atletico Madrid forward, you know, Alvaro Morata. Yes, I get that it's a game at the Bernabeu. Yes, I get that he's a former Real Madrid boy, but it's just insane, man. It's disrespectful. It's unacceptable, you know, to hear that. I mean, a country can boo their own player of the national team, you know, the captain who's actually a role model, right? And when you actually hear those jeers, you know, you're like, really? You know, you wouldn't expect that, because at the end of the day, even though you support Real Madrid or you support Atletico Madrid, For as long as a player is representing Spain, it's Spain that is playing, not Atletico Madrid. Yes, they are playing at the Bernabeu, but you must still really understand the fact that this is national team. This is it includes everybody from the country. Okay? So put the rivalry aside and actually focus on the game. Put the rivalry aside, focus on the game, focus, on the fact that you need to unite as a country. Not as based on whether you support Real Madrid or whether you support Barcelona, whether you support Atletico Madrid. And Morata he's one of them. Remember, he's a Real Madrid, academy graduate. He's one of them, and I don't understand why Real Madrid fans were booing him. Because, club loyalties, you have to leave them aside. Because this is a national team, the Spain national team. Whether it's a friendly, whether it's an official competition, whether it's not a competition, as a nation, you have to unite. And that's the same thing that I saw during the African Cup of Nations with Bafana, where people were complaining, no, where are the Kaiser Chiefs players? Where's Ashley Dupree? Hey, Sundowns players, this. Why? It's national team. If the coach has selected certain players to partake in the national team, let us all unite and support the coach's decision. We all have to support our country and unite. It doesn't matter. Club loyalties, we have to put them aside. It's not about club loyalties. It's about supporting the national team. Okay? Well, anyway, let's just stop with the negative talk. Let's just go into the other games that we saw that were very incredible to watch. Another one was Netherlands against Germany. Obviously Germany winning by 2-1. Thanks to the fact that Nicholas, Füllkrug, he actually headed in an 85th minute goal, which actually gave, the Euro 2024 host Germany a comeback victory. They came back from a goal down to actually win by 2-1 over the Netherlands, in their international friendly. And now Germany have actually won 2 games from, 2 matches in the past 4 days. And the result actually gave the Germans another big shot of confidence, following Saturday's 2-0 victory over France. And basically, let me just say, Germany now, they look to the field to battle, they look like a team that is actually battle worthy, And right now, the fact that, the tournament will be on home soil after years of some disappointing international performances, I could say it was actually the first time, in his 6th international, I'm talking about the coach, right? Julian Nagelsmann, in charge of Germany. That's now 6 matches and he has 2 victories. He actually took over in September and now he has actually earned back-to-back victories. Remember, they scored after only 7 minutes in their 2-0 victory over France on Saturday, but this time it was actually their opponents who struck after 4 minutes. Joey Vermeeren, following a mistake by the defender Maximilian, Mettelsdat. And the host, they actually had more than 70% of the possession in the first half hour. And they leveled 7 minutes later. It was actually the defender Mettelsdat who actually made, amends with a perfectly curled shot into the top corner. And Nagelsmann's team, could have scored again in a strong first half. But then the Dutch defense, they were forced to actually defend deep to actually stem the pressure. And you could tell that from this particular game, the tempo actually dropped considerably, after the break. And the visitors started, gaining more space, coming close, with Daniel Malen as well as Memphis Depay. And we even see Jamal Musiala, who's basically in superb form for club and country this season. He actually responded greatly, in the 76th minute, forcing a fine save from the Dutch goalkeeper, Bart, Verbruggen. And he came again. He came close again, right? To actually rescue minutes later, to actually stop Thomas Muller's effort and keep Netherlands, winners, 4-0 against Scotland. But let's just say, man, on Friday in the game, and Verbruggen was actually beaten. But however, let's just say, man, in the 85th minute, with Füllkrug, heading in from close range, for his 11th goal in his 15th international appearance. 11 goals in 15 appearances for your country. That's an incredible achievement, to say the least. Incredible. And, Georgia, again, let's continue. Let's just continue, In other games that we did witness is the fact that Georgia, they qualified for Euro 2024. Basically their first major tournament. And you have to just give credit to the fact that they won. via penalty shootout. They won 4-2 over in a penalty shootout over the 2004 champions, Greece. Remember, Greece are the 2004, Euro champions. And it was actually, to say, it was a tense, playoff final, which actually ended goalless, to say the least. And Georgia's, Nika, Kvaratskhelia, actually converted his spot kick after Greece's Georgia's, Gumar Giacomakis, put his penalty wide to actually send the home crowd wild. And now their side actually edged through. And, when you look at this game between Georgia and Greece, you check it once again. It was actually a scrappy, nervy affair. And with chances in normal time very far and few between, extra time brought in a little bit more entertainment with both sides creating opportunities to win the tie. But, a penalty shootout seemed inevitable. Georgia, now will be in Group F alongside Portugal, 2016 champions, Turkey, Czech Republic, at the Euros in Germany, which will begin on the 14th of June, 2024. And in the other game, France, they rallied from an early deficit to actually beat Chile by 3-2, which, with thanks to goals by Youssouf Fofana, Randall Kolo Muani, as well as Olivier Giroud in a friendly game at the Stade Velodrome. And the visitors' early pressure paid off. We saw them opening the scoring just like after 6 minutes. And it was actually a great low shot, from Marcelino Nunes, following a fine passing move from the right. And Fofana was the one who actually equalized for France in the 18th minute. It was actually Mbappe who set him up on the edge of the box, to fire past goalkeeper Claudio Bravo off a deflection from the Chile defense. And then Kolo Muani put the host in front with a close range header, from Theo Hernandez's pinpoint cross in the 26th minute of the game. Before the fact that we saw Olivier Giroud seal the victory in the 72nd minute, extending his tally as France's all-time top goal scorer to 57 goals. I wonder if Mbappe is going to catch up very soon to that. He will. Mbappe is going to catch up very soon to that. He will. I think Mbappe will catch up to that, man. I see Mbappe really catching up, because Mbappe is not far off. And remember, Mbappe still has age on his side. Whereas Giroud doesn't really have age on his side, remember. So let's just be real about that. Giroud's record will be broken very soon by Mbappe, as France's all-time leading goal scorer, if we're to be honest. I'm very honest, and I can say that, right? Let me just say this, man. What I can confirm, as football is a religion, as well as game day God, we can actually confirm that, AC Milan have actually set their sights on OGC Nice, midfielder Khéphren Thuram, the brother of the Inter Milan striker Marcus Thuram. But unfortunately, they will need like 40 million euros, to actually secure his services, right? That's how much they need to cough up, the Rossoneri. And let me just say, Milan are actually AC Milan are considering sending an offer for the French international Thuram, who's basically still under contract, with League One side, Nice, right? And let me just say, according to Game Day God, the asking price for the 23-year-old, will be circulated around like 40 million euros. And although signing a new central midfielder is not really a priority for the Rossoneri, but Thuram's name is actually high on their agenda. And AC Milan's priority is to actually sign a new centre forward to replace Olivier Giroud, who is basically expected to actually leave at the end of his contract in June. And then after that, however, the Rossoneri will actually have to focus on strengthening their midfield, and Thuram may be tempted to move to San Siro and reunite with his brother Marcus, in the city of Milan. And the Rossoneri can take advantage of a contract that expires in 2025. So we will actually see if that will actually happen, if that remains a reality. Hopefully it does, it will be very interesting if that becomes a reality. And we also see that also Manchester United, right? They seem to be willing to pay for Juventus's, Bremer, the Brazilian defender. They seem to be willing to actually pay for his clothes, because Manchester United, however, as Game Day God can actually confirm that, Manchester United are reportedly prepared to actually pay, a full 60 million euro release clause for the Juventus defender, Gleison Bremer's contract. As the Bianconeri, they actually regret that deal. And the Brazil international was actually signed from their local rivals, Torino. Remember in the summer of 2022 for actually 44 million euros plus added bonuses. And that was actually a great signing for Juventus, to say the least, because what a signing. What he has been, astonishing in defense for Juve this season. And let's just say, when he recently extended the contract to June 2018, his agents put in a release clause worth like 60 million euros, with Juve at the time thinking that it would put off most suitors. However, I don't think Juventus they were not considering the economic powerhouse of the Premier League. And the fact that, I can actually point out the fact that the Manchester United, for the fact that they're considering that 60 million, euro deal for the 27-year-old Brazilian centre back, it should be the Red Devils see that as more of a positive bargain, and they also hope that it can give them the advantage rather than, getting into a bidding war with Chelsea, Tottenham Hotspur, as well as Newcastle United. And Bremer, remember when he first went to Italy, he signed for Torino in 2018 from Atletico Mineiro, one of the powerhouses of Brazilian football, which actually cost them about like 5.8 million euros, but despite regularly being one of the best defenders in Serie A, he only has 4 senior caps to his name, surprisingly. But look, Brazil, there's a lot of competition. You have to be extremely consistent and extremely good in order for you to make it into that starting 11. And as well as for the fact that he's been solid at the back, Bremer has an eye for goal. He has actually found the net like 17 times in basically 156 Serie A appearances. So let's just say that. But, in order for you to actually be a part of, if you want to be in a Brazil starting 11, you need to be extremely good and extremely consistent. Let me just say it like that. I'll just put it out like that. So Bremer, he needs to be more consistent and actually continue to put up the good work that he is putting for Juventus. Perhaps even win trophies. Go to a club where he'll win trophies. Maybe that's where he'll be more recognized by the newly appointed Brazilian manager. And again, now Liverpool also, they prepared to bid for Hudson. And Juventus also, they plan to earn like 100 million, euros from the sales of the defender. Remember, Gleason Bremer is not the only, Juventus defender that is actually being targeted by Premier League clubs, And let me just say, Liverpool are also preparing an offer for Dean, Hudson, right? And what I can also confirm is that, remember, Borussia Dortmund, as well as Red Bull Leipzig and Liverpool, right? Those are basically the clubs that are in the running. To actually prepare lucrative offers to actually sign the Juventus defender Dean Hudson, who is currently on loan at AS Roma. And the Giallorossi are also interested in signing, the defender permanently. But he will, predictably, struggle to match Juventus's asking price exceeding 30 million euros, And Manchester United are also considering, paying Bremer's 60 million clause. So, sales of the Brazilian centre-back and Hudson would allow the old lady to actually pocket like 100 million euros to reinvest in the market. And their priority in central defense is, Riccardo, Calafiori of Bologna, who's actually valued at 25 million euros, by Rosso Blue. And Juventus could actually include, their Sam Bloney, Facundo Gonzalez to actually lower Calafiori's price tag. But, before entering negotiations, for the under-20 Italy international, they will actually need to sell one defender between Bremer as well as Hudson, or even both of them. Strangely, to say the least.